All right, all right. There's my buddy Sam Wong. Welcome everybody to Silicon Valley Influence. My name is Brian Sparks, and I'm an executive communication coach with Heroic Voice Academy. The goal of this program is to speak with Silicon Valley leaders and flush out conversational frameworks and insights so that you can accelerate your influence, build trust, build connection, and ultimately social capital. The format of the show is built around 7 leadership questions. We pitch these questions to our guests, who then help you listen for the clues that frame the mindset to be influential. And today on our show is my good friend, Sam Wong. Sam, it's so good to have you on today. We're going to have a conversation about all the exciting stuff that you're doing nowadays. I can geek out on this. Now keep in mind, this is a 20-minute show, and you and I think, could sit down for hours and just talk business, talk insights. We had a great conversation the other day about emotional intelligence. So I'm
Right.
excited. The only challenge that you and I are going to have today is, can we put in some good, valuable content in the next 20 minutes?
Yeah,
But hey, could you introduce everybody to yourself? Give your little elevator pitch, because we're limited, and I got so many questions to ask you.
sure. So as Brian mentioned, my name's Sam Wong. I work today as a startup CEO coach. I'm a fractional CEO, CTO, CFO, EIEIO, all those things. Um, and I basically came into this role after a long career. I started off in corporate IT, went to management consulting, and when my wife and I started a family, we decided to leave management consulting and I went to the startup space. So the hours did not shrink at all, but at least the travel was reduced. I had the good fortune of working for 5 startups. Four of the roles at the 5 startups were technical CTOs or technical VP, and one of the roles was a CEO role. Of the 5 startups, I had the good fortune of having 3 of them exit, but I also learned more from the 2 that shut down. Okay, so everybody tends to, in the startup space, pursue an exit, pursue some type of acquisition, and if you're lucky, maybe an IPO. But I've actually seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of that all. That's one of the things that I speak about a lot. And now, having taken all that experience, I enjoy coaching and teaching. I actually wanted at one point to be a teacher in the school system, but then I volunteered in a classroom and I realized, oh my God, this is hard. So now I teach and coach startup founders instead.
I love it. I love that. So there was a point. So what grabbed you about making the transition from the corporate world into becoming an entrepreneur? What was that pivot like? There are tons of insights
Mhm.
there, but I want to know what that aha moment was where you said, I want to make this pivot. And then I want to ask you about your failures, because you brought those up, because a lot of people have tried to bury those, but you almost led with it. So I love that. We'll get to that. But tell me a little bit about that pivot where you said, I'm out of here. I'm becoming an entrepreneur.
Right. So ultimately, you can work for a large company or a small company, or I guess a mid-sized company in the middle. What I've really found is that you get the most opportunities in small companies. So Bobby Unser, a 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner, said that success is a combination of preparation and opportunity. And preparation is 90% of the individual's responsibility. Your employer can help with that, but mostly it's on you. Opportunities are, for the most part, given to you. You just happen to be in the right time, right place. And the truth of the matter is, in my experience, working at a small company, opportunities are more plentiful. In a large company, what I found was that I'd always wanted to do more, but in order to get more responsibility, either the person above me had to get promoted or quit or die. Okay. I certainly wasn't going to assassinate anybody. So I found that, how do I get opportunities? You just had to wait. And that was just very painful and grinding, because I felt like the wheels of corporate America just grind way too slowly. And when you go to a small startup, people who have lots of preparation, who really invested in learning and doing lots of things themselves, those opportunities are plentiful. You're going to fall down and skin your knee. You might bump your head. Hopefully, you don't get a concussion, but you will learn a lot. And people have said that startups are kind of like the mini MBA in real life. And I found that there's a lot of truth to that. So I really enjoyed the opportunities that you got in smaller companies.
I love it. You make really interesting distinctions. I'm going to ask. I talked about the failure piece, but it sounds like to me you really have learned how to identify opportunity as opposed to looking at what the job role is and say, oh, here's my responsibility, and I'll work between those bookends. But
Right.
you have found it like that is where you thrive. That there's this opportunity, and you flesh that out. How like where does that come from? What is really driving you to see, oh, here's a pain point, and now I'm going to figure out a solution, and now you're sharing it with the world. I mean, you're really
Mhm.
doing well.
Yeah. So what I found out was that in a small startup, you're doing many things. You're going to wear many hats. One day you're going to Costco to buy more supplies. The other day you're trying to advise a senior VP at a potential client. The day after that, you're writing code. All right. So you tend to wear lots of different hats. And I really enjoyed and thrived on that, but it was very hard. I did grow up as a nerd, as an academic. So the one thing that I really, my parents beat into me was learn. You can always lose money, stuff can be stolen or whatever else, but you'll never lose your knowledge, really. Okay. So they really emphasize that. And I really do enjoy learning. And to me, I suffer from being a perfectionist, which means whenever I learn something and I want to try to do it, I want to do it the best way possible. Okay. Sometimes that's actually slows me down, but when I do get lots of good help from other people, I have a whole army, it feels like sometimes, of coaches, people who I consider mentors, not just that I talk with once a year or once every 5 years. Some of these guys I talk with once every week, once every other week. These are people who constantly help me to do what I need to do what I need to do better and remind me of what the narrow path is, as I tend to, just diffuse my focus too easily.
I love how you plug coaching. I I mean, being a coach, a communication coach myself, that can't be emphasized enough. How new founders, even seasoned founders. I mean, Steve
Mhm.
Jobs had founders. I mean, not founders, but mentors up until his passing. I want to go back to something because you were talking about we were talking about a distinction. You
Mhm.
make a unique distinction between fundraising
Mhm.
and fundable, right? Or
Mhm.
raising funds and fundability. And there
Right.
sounds like there's a similarity there in terms of, well, I need to do what just I need to do, the bookend thing that we talked about earlier, like, oh, just got to raise money, as opposed to looking at the holistic view of a company and say, no, this is fundable and this has value. Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, it's something that I really focus on because I view that as being absolutely key. When I look at the startups landscape, there are tons of founders that are striving, struggling to fundraise, and I get that. You need to be able to have funds to be able to do stuff, get stuff done. However, I find that lots of founders are struggling. They waste their time spending tons of time, energy, and effort trying to pitch, 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 pitch. And of course, there's a time and place for that. But what I really try to advocate is focus on fundability first. Because if you're not fundable and you try to fundraise, you're going to strike out. I mentioned earlier that I kind of grew up nerdy. A good portion of my coaching has been focused on how to not be a nerd. Sidebar here. When I was dating my girlfriend, now wife, I had this what I thought was a great idea, ended up being a horrible idea. I said, "Hey, let's look at each other's high school yearbooks on this date." So she brought her yearbook and I brought mine, and she starts thumbing through mine. She realized math club, chess club, all these academic things, a computer club, and she's like, "Oh no, you're a nerd!" And she was horrified. She said, "Oh no!" I realized, "Uh oh." um, but I was able to, for the first couple of months we were dating, she didn't really realize that because I'd gotten a ton of coaching on how not to be so nerdy. Um, but the bottom line is that you want to be fundable. If you want to date, you want to be dateable. Okay. And there's a lot of detail, lots of processes that go into that. But what I found is not a whole lot of founders want to do the hard work to be fundable. If
Mm.
you want to get a date, then the best thing to do would be, learn to be selfless, learn to be a good conversationalist, learn to be kind, shower, brush your teeth, use deodorant, basic things, instead of just trying to work on the best pickup line to introduce yourself or something. I think when you are dateable, the reality of you getting a date is just much, much better than just trying to throw out as many pickup lines to as many people that you want to date as possible.
I love that. I love that analogy. Now, a few months ago, you sat as a judge on the Bay Angels Global Pitch event, and you gave some great advice. And considering the advice you gave these companies that are giving their pitches, and you have an upcoming event. It's called the Funder's Guide. It's on the Funder's Guide to Safe Startup Fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what that is, and if you could lead before you go into that, with what are 3 things that people should consider from this framework that are most important, and then kind of take us down that road of what people would learn from this event.
Right. So maybe I don't really want to get into the details of the event itself. I mean, I can definitely talk about that. Maybe before I do that, take a step back. I believe that processes matter. Most people who seek coaching in the startup space will get a bunch of random hacks and tips and hope that results in a well-formed engine. That doesn't happen that way. If you open up the hood of a car, there's a lot of moving parts, and they're well-tuned and engineered to work together in a certain way. So what I found is that the process matters, the details matter, and the teaching and the coaching and the training, it's not just a one-time thing where I might give a suggestion and then someone does their best to do it and then we never talk again. The best way to coach is to be able to do it interactively. I can communicate a concept, but what usually works better is the person tries the concept and it comes back with their work that they did, and then we review it together to try to refine. That's how I have learned. And that's what we're trying to do with this teaching in this particular event. The Founder's Guide to Safe Startup Fundraising really focuses on where you're at and where the trends are. The bottom line is that SAFE's, the Simple Agreement for Future Equity, it's a fundraising instrument. It's now the most popular early stage fundraising instrument per real world data from Carta. Okay, Carta has data on tens of thousands of startups, and their data mining and analysis shows SAFEs are more than twice as popular as convertible notes for early stage fundraising. So we go into the detail of the SAFE, and we also describe the very different variants of the SAFE. And we also tell people what the pitfalls are, because there are advantages and disadvantages. There are 4 different variants from discount, cap, discount plus cap, and most favored nation. And then there's also 2 different structures of the SAFE, from a pre-money SAFE to a post-money SAFE, which means there's 8 different variants total. How do you choose the right one? If you just choose the post-money SAFE, many people don't know that without diving into the details, that a post-money SAFE will increase your founder dilution in many cases. So if you choose a pre-money SAFE, I don't want the extra dilution. Well, the pre-money SAFE makes it hard for you to visualize what percentage of the company you sold. These are low-level details that are almost never discussed. And founders just say, what does everybody else do? I'm going to do the same thing. And they almost blindly follow a leader without knowing where that leader is going. Mm. If you make enough bad decisions with these things, you may surprise yourself, as many founders did, and realize, oh my God, I thought I was selling 25% of my startup in equity to this preferred equity investor. But after all the SAFEs converted, I sold 45%. And they're like, oh no, that's too much. But what's done is done. You've got signed contracts. It's hard to unravel that stuff.
Wow, so, that's a good point. So, so who is this ideally for? At what stage should a founder or CEO be in? Is it, in early stages? Should they be towards the merger and acquisition or exit? Where should they be in order for this to be the most effective? Or is it just apply across the board?
Yeah, for this particular event, the Founder's Guide to Safe Startup Fundraising, this one is more of an early stage event, because the SAFE and the convertible note tends to be used to raise funds when the company has raised less than $2 million total. Okay, so most startups haven't raised 2 million, so that's early stage. Okay, it's rare to see the SAFE being used for larger than 7-figure types of fundraisers. Normally, a collection of 25,000, 50,000 types of dollar amounts, and then they just add up to whatever dollar amount, 500,000 or more. Okay,
Right.
so it's early stage.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. So you have an upcoming event. This is upcoming. Those of you who are watching this live, it's right now. It's August 2022. I encourage you to reach out to Sam. You can connect with him. I have S Wong at fundablestartups.com. Have a conversation with him. He's had an upcoming event. Sam, is there, if this is being shown down the road, is there a way for people to watch this event or get brought up to speed on down the road?
Right. So we run the event periodically, but if you wanted to just do it on demand, we do have an old replay up on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/fundablestartups. Okay. And if you search there, there is a 90-minute replay of a past event. We also have a replay of the same event on our website, fundablestartups.com. It's part of our free basic training tier. And the difference is that when it's on our own website, we can swap out modules. Okay, so if we add more content, we can swap out module 3 with the updated version of module 3. So if you want the most current version, I would go to our website, fundablestartups.com, and sign up for the free basic training tier. This SAFE class is part of that.
Great, incredible. So Sam, I'm not going to let you off the hook. You said you got your greatest insights through a couple failures.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes, you've got to tell us all about those because again, those are where the gems are. What did you learn?
How much time do we have? Okay,
We have
how many hours?
We have about another 3 minutes.
So we could fill up 3 hours worth of conversation about failures because I've made a lot of mistakes. And the old adage that you learn more from your mistakes than your successes is absolutely true. There's another corollary that says success is an absolutely lousy teacher. But to get into a couple of the details, maybe for the 2-minute version of the details, the first 2 startups that I was a part of both shut down. And we had a lot of smart people doing a lot of great things. The first one raised $55 million. It was viable, but there were lots of things that we did that were wrong. We spent the money wrong. We were trying to stomp on the gas pedal to hit the wrong goals because our original pitch was inaccurate, and it set an unrealistic expectation where all the investors were saying, you told us this is going to be a rocket ship. You better, step on that gas pedal with both feet just to be able to hit escape velocity. Okay. And that, blew the engine compartment. We blew a gasket and the company just burned all sorts of money and it ended up shutting down. The second one shut down because of a lot of execution mistakes. There were a lot of low details where we had a fantastic product. I'd say startup number 2 had probably the best product of the 5 startups that I worked on, but it still shut down. And a lot of the execution mistakes were positioning, marketing, messaging. Our go-to-market was flawed and weak. And I look back and realized we were still learning how to take things to market and how to sell. And the lack of execution in marketing, lack of execution in sales made a very viable product die. Okay. People say that if you build a good product, the market will beat your door down to get it. Yes, sometimes depending on the type of market that you have. That was an enterprise software company, and in enterprise software, you have to be good at sales. So we had a fantastic product, but we sucked at sales, and that resulted in us, basically not being successful, and the company shut down. Lots of other low-level details, but we just don't have the time to get into more.
Well, I love what you just said because I've often heard and I've often experienced being at a ton of pitches. I have seen great companies. I mean, 10 out of 10 companies, but their founder or their presenter who's leading the ship can only speak at a certain level. And so therefore they're only perceived at the level that they can communicate their idea and execute on that idea and never actualize that potential of the company. So that piece about communicating idea, executing on the strategy is huge. And I'm going to brag on you a little bit, Sam. The content you put out is incredible. I love, doing the event with Bay Angels last month, and one of our other judges said, "Hey, Sam, I know who you are. You have the best content out on the market right now." I thought that was amazing. You were just kind of like, just, yeah, thank you. I know, but I thought that was such a validating moment. And talking to you, I concur. I mean, you've got some great content. I love your perfectionism. I love how you were critiquing my lights and how the light was bouncing off my bald spot and like it was distracting. So I love it. But hey, I want to thank you for joining us today, Sam. You're amazing. If you want to get in touch with Sam Wong, you can look him up on LinkedIn, or you can also connect with him with the email up on the screen, swong@fundablestartups.com. And I also want to invite everybody to join me and Anthony Lee on Thursday from 12 to 1. We do the presentation gym. We talk all about communicating your idea to funders, becoming fundable, not just looking for fundraising. So we look to build that trust, build that connection, and there's ultimately a process in that. Taking the stage once and having success can ultimately set you up for a lot of conversations. So I encourage you to join us Thursday for the presentation gym. You could also go to heroicvoice.com/gym. There you can enter the gym. We have a ton of resources, pitch deck framework. We have a workbook there, a lot of resources. So check that out. Come see us on Thursday. You can watch us live on LinkedIn, as well as join us on Zoom and practice your pitch. Practice, 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 people. Sam, we can continue this conversation for hours to come. Again, thank you for joining Silicon Valley Influence today. You're amazing. And I wish you all the luck.
Thanks. And if I could just wrap up with one thing here, you talked about practice, practice, profit. Maybe leave it with just one thought. Vince Lombardi, former head coach of the NFL champion Green Bay Packers, said, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And to be able to have the framework that you have, it's not just about practicing and the coaching. I would encourage everybody to take advantage of what Brian is doing. It's got a lot of stuff going on. So perfect practice will help you reach that perfection goal.
And with that, Sam, thank you so much. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.